Aloha and welcome to another in our series of A Better Day. I'm State Senator Sam Slom and thank you for joining us. And if you stay tuned for the next half hour, you're going to learn a lot of information. You're going to meet two fine gentlemen who are going to tell you about some of the key issues that are taking place in our state. But I just wanted to wrap up, the 2015 legislative session is finally over. Finally, I know some people think or thought it would never end. Are you happy with the results? If you smoke marijuana, you probably are. If you were involved with a health connector, you're probably not. If you're like me and can't stand the city rail, the train to nowhere, and we're going to give them more tax money, you're really upset. But there were a lot of other things. There were 3,000 bills when we started out in January, and by July, about 250 were signed into law by Governor Ige. He did veto 8 bills, and surprise, the majority party made no effort to override any of his vetoes. Just a little historical fact so that you know. Since 1962, with all of the Democratic or majority party governors, only one veto was ever overridden by the state legislature, and that was Governor Cayetano, had to do with the age of consent. In contrast, when Linda Lingle was governor for 8 years, more than 150 of her vetoes were overridden. And no less than the former Speaker of the House, Calvin Say, in an interview a couple weeks ago said, "Oh, yeah, but that was politics then, and now it's when we have a Democrat governor, that's policy. So now you know the difference." And that's the way it works. It was an interesting session. It was an unusual session in many ways. The budget was and is always the deciding factor. We still have a tremendous unfunded debt of over $20 billion, and it's got to be paid sometime because it is it's a liability on you, the taxpayers of the state. But people don't like to talk about finances. They don't like to talk about the budget. We in the Senate minority have for the last 6 years provided an alternative budget. We put it up online. We have our own website for it. You can also access information on how the budget works. It's kind of interactive, so you can make changes yourself, see where your priorities would be. But the bottom line is this. This state is running out of money. It's running out of cash reserves because we keep spending and we keep promising people, kind of like the federal government. Look, we're running an $18 trillion deficit. And yet, the President of the United States goes all around the world promising people, oh, we'll give you $1 billion here and $1 billion there. Where's that money coming from? Think about it. Anyway, the name of the program is A Better Day. And the reason we say that is, politicians here, governors have had their own slogans. A good day, a new beginning, this, that. We want you to have a better day. You're going to have a new day every day when you wake up. Hopefully you will wake up. But you're going to have a new day. We want you to have a better day. And Hawaii has a good future in store if we start making the right political decisions, if we have the will to do that. And that means you have to be on our backs and keep our feet to the fire. Too often you vote for us because you like the way we look, or you like who we're married to, or who the family name is, or where we went to high school. Forget about all that. Get smart about the issues. And that's what this program tries to do. And you can contact me at any time after the program for any help or any more information about what we're going to talk about. Before I introduce my guests, one final message. Our colleague, State Senator Breene Harimoto, is going through several medical challenges right now. He's a good guy. We differ on a lot of issues, but he's a good guy. And I ask for your support and your prayers for Senator Harimoto. With that being said, I've got two really interesting gentlemen today and an interesting issue. You may have heard about the whale sanctuary, the idea of expanding the whale sanctuary in Maunalua Bay. You may also have known that in East Honolulu, last month, we had a town hall meeting. It was originally put together by State Representative Gene Ward, and those of us in office in the area all attended. We had nearly 400 people at the Hahione school cafeteria. We had a lot of people that wanted to give their positions on what they think about this so-called expanded whale sanctuary. And we had from the state the head of DLNR, the recently appointed and approved Suzanne Case, and from NOAA, the federal agency, Malia Chow. But mostly the people that testified there had doubts, concerns, outright objections. And it soon became evident that this was far more of a state issue than just East Honolulu and just Maunalua Bay. We actually had people that had flown in on their own dime from Kauai and the Big Island and maybe even Maui too. Two of the gentlemen that gave excellent testimony that night are here with us today to talk a little bit about that issue, to give you some things that I bet you didn't know or you hadn't thought about. And that's what this program is all about. So, first of all, let me introduce our special guest. First of all, Jeffrey Krantz. And Jeff has been a long-time waterman and businessman in East Honolulu. You live in the area, you fish in the area, you use the area, and yet you've had problems because it's been the state that's put on more and more regulations to regulate your business, which is sea breeze, H2O water sports, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about what you do and a little bit about yourself.
Actually, quite simple guy. I run a small business. We have about 35 employees. I've been here for a little over 30 years. Mm-hmm. Our company is basically in water sports, being parasailing, jet skiing, and thrillcraft operations. I also have another hat that I wear, which is Street Vac International, and that's more of an environmentally based company that we use a lot of the generations of our water sport funds to actually go out and conquer environmental problems.
And I can tell you this, that Jeff has been involved in public meetings, in testimony. He's not just a businessman, but he's a concerned businessman, and he's involved in the environment, and he's given good testimony. You haven't always gotten a good reception. There are some people that would like to put you out of business, put all business out of business.
Yeah, right? I think, you know, whenever you get that adversity, that just actually means you're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, thank you for your introduction. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But yes, you know, there's a lot
you do
to
a lot of
discuss
you do a lot of your own research also, and you
I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you know the issues, discuss the
Yep.
issues, but you know, I've said several times before that we've gotten to a point in Hawaii where we don't like to hear alternative points of view, and I think that's sad. But another person who gave really good alternative points of view did his research, Mr. Ron Tam. And Ron is the secretary of the Hawaii Fishermen's Alliance for Conservation and Tradition. What's that all mean?
It means that we advocate for scientifically based management of our natural resources so that they will be sustainable for future generations. I'm a senior citizen, Sam. Thank you for having me here, first of all.
Well, us senior citizens got to stand together. You know,
for sure.
We've got to do that or
for
sit
sure.
together anyway.
Born and raised in Hawaii. I'm retired, obviously, but I fished since I was a child, born on Maui. Fished off the beach and continued fishing throughout my life.
Yeah.
And seeing these changes that are coming about just traumatic to me because there's so much lack of information, lack of sharing. And I seem to sense, our organization seems to sense an overlording, particularly with the whale sanctuary, with regards to federal involvement.
Yeah. All right, let's get into that specifically. And the proposal to expand the whale sanctuary, who can be opposed to that? Everybody loves the whales, everybody wants to save the whales, so what's your problem?
Well, we're not opposed to the whale sanctuary. In fact, we recognize that they've done some very good things. Their outreach, their education operations have been tremendous. In particular, they've really done a lot to save the whales with respect to cutting nets off of them when they get entangled. So they've done some great work. Now, to answer your question more directly, as you realize, there's a petition out there to NOAA to delist the humpback whale as an endangered species.
I remember when State Senator Malama Solomon from the Big Island brought this up last year, and she was derided for that. But you said that you and your organization deal in scientific facts, and is it not a scientific fact that the humpback whales have been thriving.
Yes, and I think there's a misconception that the sanctuary contributed to this. And I say it's a misconception because it's actually international law that prevents people from hunting the whales. The sanctuary aided, but certainly the existence of the sanctuary in itself was not a major contributing factor to this rise in population of the humpback whale. So the fundamental question in that regard is, if the humpback whale gets delisted, why do we need the sanctuary? And I say, okay, there is a purpose that's being served, in the sense that, yes, they are educating the people out there. They are helping the whales that get entangled. But to expand the sanctuary and to change it from a single species humpback whale to
We've
an
never
ecosystem.
had that before, have we? We're just a single species?
No, this goes back to the times of Governor Ariyoshi and Governor Cayetano. Governor Ariyoshi, when this proposal first came forward, tabled it essentially.
So it's not a new proposal. I mean, some people think this just came, in the last couple months or year or so.
The newness of it is the expansion from a single species to an ecosystem, as well as a 7% gain in the areas that are being covered, about 240 or so square miles of primarily state waters. So it's questionable as to why are the feds intruding and trying to overlord state waters. The state's managing well. The state is doing what it can do to ensure that our resources are sustainable within the resources they have available to them.
So you see it as, first of all, I guess a solution looking for a problem. Secondly, the federal government taking over or usurping what is state responsibility.
Absolutely. It's completely duplicative. Why? What is the value added?
Yeah. And Jeff, from the standpoint of the proposal that's actually been made by NOAA, how would this affect your business or business in general?
That would leave quite a few questions. That's kind of an open-ended area. This is the proposal. I brought you a nice copy so you can see the
That's in
wonderful
case you can't see
450 something.
Is this one of these, though, that we pass first and then read afterwards?
I think I'm not as concerned, wearing my business hat. I'm not looking at it as this sanctuary is going to put me out of business. What I have done is I read the plan, and I don't understand parts or the majority. All of us, I think everyone can agree on one thing. We all want a cleaner environment. We all want to pass on something good for our generations, our grandkids and so forth. But when you read this plan and the science that isn't necessarily right in here, but it directs you to it. And you go to that science, it states what the factors are that are causing the problem. Those aren't being addressed. So for me, my biggest issue was $25 million is in this plan. That's what they're getting, $5 million per year to expand an existing sanctuary. And that $5 million that they're looking
when you say they, you're talking about NOAA?
NOAA, yeah, what the NOAA's looking for. What good is it going to do? You have to find, there's got to be something of relevance and value, because we're paying hard-earned taxpayer dollars to NOAA to manage this. So when I look at this, show me something that's going to come out of it more than what's already here today.
But isn't the basic question, isn't it the state's responsibility to manage this area?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. There's no question about that.
So, I mean, what benefit do we get by having the federal government take it over?
Well, what you have had a benefit of is that the federal government has given some money to our DLNR.
For cleanup efforts, or
for actually management and
yeah, but that was withdrawn this past year.
Right.
So there was a little bit of.
I was trying to get to my.
I'm sorry,
no,
Jeffrey.
that's all right.
Sorry.
My point was, so it comes down to roughly $87,000 a year since the sanctuary was in. So that's what Hawaii's benefited, and in all honesty, that's not going to do it. You know, that's not going to tackle a problem. That's not going to give us a level of finance to put a department to take care of the massive, you know, we have a huge area already.
Yeah.
So again, I just follow the money, you know, and what makes sense. This doesn't make sense.
So you're saying $5 million per year
to whom?
To NOAA.
To what?
Yeah. Yeah.
This, as Jeffrey mentioned, and this was demanded by Governor Cayetano when he signed off on it, on the compact agreement, which resulted in the sanctuary ultimately. One of the provisions that Governor Cayetano insisted upon was that there be a co-management of the sanctuary. As a result, NOAA, as Jeff points out, provided funding to DLNR so that there would be a state representative co-managing the sanctuary.
So that was the original idea.
That was the original.
Yeah.
Last year, in 2014, that money was pulled. And this 450-page document shows up, and I believe that our co-manager, our state co-manager, had no part in this development.
So is it a question that the state is not doing what it's supposed to do?
The state is doing as well as it can with the resources that are available.
Yeah, but you're saying that what the resources the state needs are financial resources from the feds, not an additional layer of management or control.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
As Director Case, Suzanne Case, the new chair for the
Just
board,
been on the job for a couple months.
months. Her position that she testified to NOAA was that the issue is one of management capacity. So you have all these things that you want to do. How do you manage, enforce, administer all of this?
Yeah.
We need the resources. Now, what makes it so that the Fed can do it better than the state? What makes them more qualified?
Well, when you have duplication, first of all, you find out that you don't get the job done because everybody's, oh, I thought you were going to do this. Oh, I did that, or whatever. And you definitely have additional costs.
Sure.
So, and those costs don't necessarily go into the core things that you need to be done, as you're suggesting here. They're going to go to NOAA. And, you know, I've got to tell you, honestly, at that town hall meeting, I was not impressed with the presentation that was made by NOAA, by Ms. Chow. And every time she was asked a question, her answer basically was, trust me. You know?
Right.
And those of us that deal with government in any way learned a long time ago, you better get it in writing.
Right.
Because just ask the folks on the North Shore who were trying to start that dune buggy business, who did they did all their due diligence, and they were told, oh yeah, you'll get the registration, everything is fine. Then they get the vehicles, they have all this stuff for a year and a half, and they incur losses because they find out, oh no, the state's not going to do that. And the person that gave them that information retired.
Right.
So you got to get it in writing. We don't have it in writing.
And that's what I brought up at the meeting. And honestly, it was nice to see that town hall meeting come and special thanks to Representative Ward for getting up and making that happen.
Yes.
The sad thing about that is that everyone that was there and all those voices that were heard are not going to be included in any of the testimony because it ended actually on June 19th, so it was prior to that.
Well, didn't they say though that they would extend the period? I thought that's
no,
they're not going to.
No, they didn't. And
so they didn't listen really.
And more bothersome. I mean, if you want to get into just quick details,
sure.
Maunalua Bay is an area that is being considered for an SSMA. So currently, it is within the scope of
explain that.
Sanctuary special
Sanctuary
Special Management Area.
Okay.
In other words, there is some uniqueness.
Uniqueness, right. So along those lines, you know, so it takes from where our original sanctuary, and we're going to expand into the high tide watermark of the bay.
Okay.
With that comes some overlapping regulations, as Ron's pointed out here. We've got a duplication in a variety of areas that are also, you know, right in our HRS and in DLNR. And in addition to that, it's crazy that you're also looking at double fines. because we brought this up at the last advisory board meeting. We were sitting in the back, and we can't really participate in that. But I was quite surprised to see how their, what is their fee structure. I really want to know what their fine is if, for instance, someone were to disturb the bottom. So is that a $5,000 fine, a $50,000 fine? NOAA has a, no, I'm not against them, but there is some, whenever you have a large organization, some problems. So if you type in your search box, NOAA abuse of funds, what you find there is quite extraordinary, and I don't want to see that happen to my community. Do I want to see our bay become better? Absolutely. But doing that means you have to address science. This is not addressing science.
Maunalua Bay is really a special place.
Yes.
It is a major resource of the community and of the state. And you have mixed use. I mean, you have, recreational users, you've got commercial users, you've got fishermen, you've got all kinds of things.
Every ocean user is out at Maunalua Bay.
Yeah.
You've got bone fishermen out there, you've got stand-up paddle boarders, jet skiers, commercial operators doing parasailing as well as jet skis, canoe. This weekend was horrendous out there because of the canoe raid from Molokai.
Yeah, yeah.
So
and yet all of the users, whether they be fisher folk or jet skis or whatever, I know that you've all participated when they've had cleanups there, when they got rid of the algae and other things.
Invasive seaweed.
You basically adopted the bay. But this particular proposal for the sanctuary actually goes beyond Maunalua Bay, does it not?
Absolutely. Yeah. This stretches from Kauai to the Big Island, and the changes that we're looking at are substantial. And without foundation. And like Ron had pointed out earlier, we're going to an ecosystem. I mean, to boil it down, it really looks like we have a department that's within the federal government in search of getting funding opportunities.
Do both of you have confidence in the State Department of Land and Natural Resources to be able to do what they're supposed to do if they have adequate funding?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
No
because,
question.
listen, that was a big issue at the 2015 legislative session. Was not only who's going to be the leader, and we had all the dust up and political machinations about that, but the overriding point was, look, there's so much responsibility and so many divisions in DLNR, but they're not getting adequate funding. And that seemed to be our perspective from the legislature, and you concur with that.
I have testified to that effect. I've gone to the budget hearings, and I've testified in support of the DLNR budget, because I realize that you legislators speaketh on one side, but taketh on the other.
Well, that's true. People at the town hall meeting and in the media recently have talked about the problems with the bay, and we need to fix problems. Do you see problems, and if so, what are they, and what needs to be done?
Well, I think there's been a overarching focus. Change in habitat, critical habitat or habitat, will change what happens out in that bay. That change didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
And so when Suzanne Case makes a statement that Maunalua Bay needs help, you can't argue that. But at the same time, what is the baseline?
And what bay
and what kind of help?
And
right?
what place doesn't need help that has a population?
Right.
And I think that's. I mean,
some people
you've got commercial and you've got fishing, and we're both sitting at the table telling you, from both of our standpoints, doesn't make sense.
But some people would say, yeah, it's your fault. If we didn't have the overfishing, if we didn't have the jet skis.
Overfishing is an absolute misnomer.
But I love this one. I love this one because I came up with this and I thought about it. How many of us really want to open that door and walk into a smoking restaurant? None of us. We look inside there, man, we're not going in there. You're going to protect kids. People saying that the bay doesn't have as many fish now. Well, maybe that we have a smoke-filled environment. Maybe what we ought to do is attack the science that's telling us, put in silt traps, stop some of this stuff, and maybe the bay will recover on its own. By going in there and pushing regulations, and I'm telling you, forcing them down the throat of the community, not just commercial, but also recreational and the individual, is not the way to go. It's not a hand-in-hand approach. And this bay was changed in the 60s when it was developed.
Well, you guys have talked so much, but you had so much valuable information. We're almost pow. What's the final word that you'd like to leave with our viewers today, Ron?
I would like you, the viewers, to try and understand the intensity of this initiative, of NOAA's initiative, and go to your legislators and express your concerns so that they are aware and understand and recognize that you as a citizen throughout the state, I'm not talking on only Maunalua Bay,
right,
but throughout the state, you need to go to your legislators and express your concern, first and foremost.
Good advice. Jeff, message?
I'm going to tell you, bombard the phone lines of our governor and tell him to stop this craziness. It gets revisited every 5 years. Let the community get together and let's do this as a team and stop trying to just play God with our land.
Well, you guys have said it all. Now it's up to us. It's up to us in the legislature. It's up to the public. If you want to do something, first of all, if they want to get more information, they can contact either or both of you in your organization.
Certainly.
Ron Tam with the Hawaii Fishermen's Alliance for Conservation and Tradition. Jeff Krantz, longtime resident and commercial user of the bay.
And
but both of them concerned about the environment, both of them volunteering to do changes and all that.
And you can get updates by going to friendsofmaunaluabay.org.
friendsofmaunaluabay.org. Okay, let's do it. Gentlemen, I appreciate you taking time out. I know you'll both be more involved, and you'll help make it a better day. Aloha, and thank you for joining us.